time has now come for us all to do more. From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
The number of adults in the UK who are experiencing some level of depression has doubled since the start of the coronavirus pandemic.
Tonight, a worrying picture is emerging on the impact of the pandemic on our mental health.
It's ravaged the world with an estimated 2.9 million deaths and 134 million cases and counting. This has caused many countries to lock down their civilians in their own homes. We're going to explore the mass rise in mental health due to being locked down.
Yeah, luckily I have a reasonable network of friends. A lot of them aren't local anyway, so what we tend to do is set up Zoom conversations with them occasionally. Not that often, admittedly, because you don't have a lot to say sometimes. Nobody's been doing a great deal for the last year or so. But even so, I think it's good to have that support, and I've probably spoken to friends that I wouldn't have spoken to before as well. Friends that maybe only ever go to gigs with, for example. I've been calling them and having hour-long Zoom chats with them, and that's kind of enhanced what the advice I give to other people would be, especially if you're lonely on your own, just speak to your friends and family as much as possible. Reach out to them and just have that social connection. Try to get out and exercise. Like I said earlier, in the countryside.
Okay, my name's Kev Elliott. I am a qualified counsellor, registered with the BACP. I have a degree in person-centred counselling, focusing on felt senses and process analysis.
Do you think the current crisis will continue after lockdown?
I hope not. I hope that with people being able to get back to working and whatnot, they're able to actually reach out for help. As much as I'd love to offer all the services I can for free, which I do, unfortunately I have to eat as well. So I have found that people are less likely to look after themselves with the current pandemic going on. So I'm hoping it will start to level out, but unless there's some pretty heavy funding given towards it and it recognised for the value of what it is, I do fear that people will still go unheard.
What do you think the future of mental health will be?
Things currently moving as they are, people are getting more comfortable with talking and being okay with not being okay. Person-centred very much sort of follows this ideal. That's in no way am I casting doubts on any other sort of modalities, but I feel that fits easiest in that. So people seem to be opening up more with talking. So hopefully that's the future of the way it's going to go, and hopefully people will carry on doing that.
How's your mental health been over lockdown?
I've struggled. Sleep has taken a serious hit. Groundhog Day. Not really having anything to talk about with my partner. Yeah, it's been a bit all over the place, to be honest. My anxiety has certainly increased dramatically. I'm also feeling now that lockdown's sort of coming to an end as well. There's a certain sense of agoraphobia going on, and me wondering how easy it'll be to fit back in. But I think a lot of people are worrying about that as well. So yeah, it's become the norm for a year, and now all of a sudden it's going to not be again. So yeah.
Is the current crisis due to lockdown, or are there any other factors included?
Not due to lockdown. Lockdown has put a magnifying glass over everyone's worst emotional states, if you like, forcing couples that felt they're happy together, and now all of a sudden you're living with each other's, habits and whatnot 24/7. Certainly not caused by it, but heavily magnified by it.
How do you think people are dealing with mental health at the moment?
can only really speak for those closest to me, and the experiences I've had, and myself, of course. I think it's taken a real hit, especially with being locked inside four walls. I'm noticing lots of cognitive dissonance, and I steer away from online because it's just the Dunning-Kruger effect in its full glory. That's not to say, of course, I'm an expert in any way, but just watching people argue for argue's sake is soul destroying. So yeah, I've noticed a lot of people around me just struggling with the everyday today, just suddenly having things taken away that they didn't realise was taken not for granted, but were available at the touch of a switch, so to speak. So yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who suffer with depression on how to find ways to cope?
Wish I had the answer. If I had the answer, I'd be a multi-billionaire overnight. But I think at its base, talk. Just really, really talk. I know it's scary, especially sort of saying that you're not okay and saying you're struggling. But there are people out there who will listen. I'm not going to say there are people out there who won't judge and think it's whatever they think it is. But there are a lot of people out there who listen and will help. So talk.
Do you think the government are doing their best to facilitate the crisis?
No. Severe lack of funding. I've done voluntary work and do voluntary work for charities, and it's just a continuous fight to even stay open. Limited to the amount of sessions that you can give people. I personally have experienced a client where we had a limited amount of sessions, and at the end of it, simply wasn't ready to finish, but I've got no choice. And the place that I work for also had absolutely no choice. So no, I don't believe they're doing enough. I don't believe it's recognised enough. And I believe the government, along with media, etc., still advertises and pushes forward an agenda of man up.
Has the mental health crisis gone up due to coronavirus, or do you think it's something else?
As stated before, it's definitely magnified, without a shadow of a doubt. I speak to teenagers, and they're not seeing their friends. Their sleep patterns are going out the window, and playing a computer all day, every day, etc. And that they're really struggling, really struggling. And that's certainly not what they would normally have been doing. It has to be attributed to coronavirus and lockdown. However, again, certainly not the original cause, which I don't think there is an answer to.
I mean, usually, I have things that can sort of bring me back up, but unfortunately, the way it usually happens, it happens gradually. You can see through my mood. I don't know. It usually happens when when I'm with, I just met some people, or I've just been outside, and it's been so great. I might feel overwhelmed sometimes. Oh my god, it's a bit too much, especially during COVID. If we'd been going out, uni, it would have been alright. You see people. But then if I meet someone outside and then I go back home, back to everything, to the uni work, to work, to whatever is surrounding me, it just builds up in my head. And because there is no urge for me to go out, basically, because everything's online, right? So I can just stay home, right? So it starts slowly by, I start slacking off, or I go oh, I'm tired of the person I just met. Even if it's my friend, we had a great time, or we shot something. I don't know, the snacks that I'd be craving, and avoiding all the social interactions. So I know what to do. At some point, when it just gets bad, basically, but then I know what can bring me back up, which is sport. I need to get myself out, to go out for a run, so that you basically need to get yourself out before it gets worse. So the answer is no, because I've heard that like once you start taking the medications, first of all there might be hormonal, and I think they might change something within you, like physically, and you might get like, not sure how much you can get addicted to them, but when I have a list of like pros and cons, like whether I should go to the doctor and get the prescriptions, there is more contrast of why I shouldn't get them. Like my situation wasn't that bad yet where I needed to get the medicine. I'm trying to use all of the sources and opportunities to get myself out of this state without any medical, without any medications. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I was actually thinking about that because sometimes I don't know, it sounds so stupid, but I had a couple of moments where I really was, I don't know, thinking like, so what's the point of living? I mean, now I'm in a good state and in a good place. Obviously, I'm thinking back and I'm just like, well, a lot of people go through it, and I think COVID just emphasized the whole thing. Yeah, it's bad because I'd have these depressive thoughts like, do I, why do I exist? like this basically, and I really need to take myself out of this mindset in order to like prevent some actions, So what was the question again? I think I wandered up. Actually, yeah, like it's like 50-50. So obviously there's bad things that happened, but because these bad things have happened, they kind of brought me out of my comfort zone, and and I started doing some things which are actually positive to me. Like even the little things, like I have started a diary, for example, and this thing has helped me with coping with this weird anxiety, depression, whatever you call it, thingy, because now every time I find myself in a bad place or I find myself having some bad thoughts,